Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you a tale of mystery, dark deeds, and murder most foul. Well, perhaps not murder, but what greater crime is there than to break the League of Legends terms of service? Anyway, today I was playing my one rank game a month to prevent elo decay. I realized I said, I'd play a lot more rank this season, but I've fallen back in my old ways, and I've just, playing once a month to prevent falling back into gold or whatever garbage that is. Something rather curious happened today. Now, I should probably preface this to kind of see where people are coming from by saying, we ended up winning the game. I got a group with a relatively solid team who just kind of didn't give up. But we were losing early, fairly hard. I'd actually lane swapped and had gone mid and was fighting a LeBlanc because whoever was on our team wanted to go top lane. And he was fighting against a Cho'gath. He was doing all right-ish, but in general, the Cho'gath was just kind of unusually good for this sort of MMR range of game. It was roughly, the average MMR, I believe, was, Platinum 4-ish, so, not the highest thing ever, but, it's at least getting into the point where you expect, kind of vaguely, roughly, sometimes competent play. But this Cho'gath kind of really stood up because he was doing really well on his own. He had a very, very good scoreline. I think he was at 1.80 and I don't know 10 or whatever the hell he was. And he knew when to roam. Yeah, more interestingly, he knew when to roam and how to roam, or where to roam, I suppose. And because this is weird, the enemy team grouped up very early, which you don't see in solo queue too often, and stayed grouped for a while. Sort of in the sense that either the Cho'gath, or if I were to guess, the Cho'gath was either coordinating them via, the in-game chat, or people kind of naturally knew to gravitate towards him and then kind of cluster and sort of team fight around him in that sense. Now, what ended up happening after this was the enemy team kind of ended up riding that, or what it seemed like they kind of ended up riding that sort of we're winning high and going, hey, we can do whatever we want. Started splitting up, and then we kind of grouped as a result, and then took some important objectives and some very key team fights and sort of put ourselves back in the game. And then we did the same thing and split up, and it kind of went back and forth like this between people splitting up and grouping up, and then we ended up winning ultimately in an actually a relatively spectacular comeback fashion. So that was very nice. Again, as I was saying, it was very nice to see that I got grouped with a team who were very mentally solid and didn't give up immediately, because a lot of teams would have. They had very strong early pressure. They were winning quite hard. They had a massive lead in terms of scoreline. And a lot of teams would have just simply surrendered at 20. One guy actually did try to, but the rest of my teammates are like, no, we can still maybe do this. And we ended up so. Anyway, that's enough background info on that. More specifically, the Cho'gath, I looked him up, and at this point, this might be a bit of confirmation bias because I had looked up at the stats at this point, but it really was looking like one of the viewer custom games I do, where there's no proper matchmaking ELO MMR stuff, because it's just me putting people in a custom game so we can all play together on my live stream. And what often happens is there'll be one or two really experienced players on one team, and the rest of the people will be relatively inexperienced. And the people who have more experience tend to, know what to do at any given point on the map, and they'll be there at the right spot on the map, and they're not particularly accustomed to working with people who don't think on the sort of the same wavelength as they do. And so the other people will be off, I don't know, sticking their thumbs in their ass or whatever they do in the jungle and not actually accomplish anything. They'll be basically on the wrong part of the map. And it's almost like there's these two clashing teams within the same team. And it almost at times seems like it would have simply been better if everyone on the team had been experienced, because at the very least, when everyone's experienced or on the same level of thinking, they all at least work together doing the wrong thing, which tends to be better than, people doing different things. At any rate, so like I said, I did look up the Cho'gath, and he's got some very, very curious things about his stats here. I went to the na.op.gg site, and I'm looking stuff up, and his Cho'gath has an 84% win ratio. This used to be higher. Keep in mind, this is the stats after he's already lost to us, so it used to be just under 90%, I believe. And his Jinx has an over 90% stat still, because, we didn't beat this guy's Jinx. And the other sort of weird thing is that there's very few continuous threads between champions who have been often played in the previous season, Season 4 and Season 5. The one thing is the Nidalee, who you'll notice almost has kind of a halfway in between stats. So it's possible that, you know, the original, well, if my theory is correct and there's an original owner of the account, his crappy stats, or rather they both play it, the new guy and the old guy, and then the old crappy stats are kind of screwing up the better players' stats. Overall, he's got some relatively high stats all over the place, and the ones especially that have the good win ratios have very, very high KDAs as well, like, you know, 5.0 plus. You know, we're seeing 5.5 here, 3.9, 5.2. Annie, I'm guessing, is a support. He's playing as support Annie because he's got a low win ratio and it's harder to carry with supports. Again, same thing with the Leona, but you're seeing very, very high KD ratios, like 6.3 kind of thing. Now, given the sample size of games played isn't the biggest thing ever, but I just find this really weird. Incidentally, none of the older seasons, I don't know if they record them on this site, so they're not there, so it's kind of hard to say. He has 300 some odd games played, which might also lead you to believe that it's a Smurf account, because that's an okay amount of normal games, but not a lot. So maybe this is this guy's, you know, I'm going to screw around on some things account, and then suddenly in Season 5, okay, I'm going to play, you know, 2 really serious time champions. Now, if this is elo boosted, it can come in a couple of formats. You know, you can either pay some company to do it for you, or what's it called? You can. It's also possible. You know, you just get a friend who's better at the game than you to play, or, you know, an older brother or something, and he's like, "Hey, I play Cho'gath. I got to boost your account." You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, again, very curious. Now, the reason I'm not showing this guy's name is because I'm not sure. You know, I don't have any hard evidence, and frankly, I don't really care. I just find it sort of interesting. You know, it's a bit of a mental exercise, if you will. I'm sure there's millions of people with boosted accounts out there, but yeah, very, very strange. So it's also possible that this guy just suddenly got a lot better in between seasons. You know, Season 4, he just, you know, he's learning the ropes, and then suddenly in Season 5, he's like, hey, I've discovered I'm really good at Cho'gath. I'm really absurdly good at Jinx. And, you know, I'm just going to beat the crap out of everyone, which is possible. And again, like, serious kudos to this guy. If you happen to be watching this video, I don't know why you would. You know, like I said, I'm not. You don't take this as an insult or anything. Take it almost as a compliment, in the sense, you know, if this is not what you're doing. Because, you know, you've done quite well for yourself here. It's just, it's almost, you've done so well, it's kind of curious. So, yeah. I don't really have too much more to add to this. Actually, I suppose I should mention, you know, even my account looks kind of suspicious if you look at it from certain angles. That's why I don't want to, you know, hard label this guy as, you know, an elo booster or whatever. Because, you know, obviously there's nothing too weird about my account here, or in terms of what's going on. But it is odd in the sense that I play just Jarvan with my ranked games, and it used to be actually a 70+ win % ratio. It's gone down a little bit because of a few losses, but you know, someone who comes out of nowhere and hasn't played very many ranked games and suddenly is winning a lot of Jarvan games looks a little bit weird. Now, it's not as weird, obviously, because, you know, it's just Jarvan. There's no you know, there's not a whole bunch of things I've played other than that do very poorly, or compared to, when you compare it to last season, it's not like my ranking has changed all that much. You know, so that kind of thing. And the KDA ratio is not completely absurd. Like, as well as I tend to do on Jarvan, it's not 5.5. So, yeah. I don't know. You guys weigh the evidence and judge for yourselves. Probably a case of elo boosting, but, you know, I actually kind of find this curious, because it's funny because what's his name? Sick Motion just the other day put out a video talking about how he thought there was a guy, or it most definitely was, like, a person using multiple accounts to boost up someone into their master promo series. And this game, I just happened to run into someone who it's like probably the most obvious case of elo boosting I've run into quite some time. There was another instance of this probably a couple months ago where there was a very suspicious Nunu, but you know, I thought it was sort of funny. You know, on the one hand, we have Sick Motion dealing with people doing dastardly deeds, trying to get a, you know, what's it called, master, and then, you know, if we're down here in the toilet and in sort of the mid-platinum range, and you know, people are elo boosting. But anyway, see you guys around. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this somewhat interesting, and yeah, always keep your eyes open and observe your surroundings.